Now we were talking about the situation about you were doing all this work for the city. So you know, go on with
And
that.
then the mayor had taken away all of my responsibilities
Mm-hmm.
and told me in a letter in writing that I was a engineer tech 4 was the official position that I had, and that that's the work I should do, and that's the work I should have been doing all along. Despite the fact that I had business cards from the city and that I was, after the public works director left, I was reporting directly to the managing director of the city
Mm.
for months
So
before
your business
before
card
this
said,
said special programs manager.
"Wow." Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they also informed me that the job was a non-exempt position, which meant that if you worked overtime, you had to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I, what about the overtime I worked for the whole last year and a half? And the director of human relations at the table said to me, well, give me a list and we'll have to pay you for it. And I said, well, I didn't keep track of it because I just assumed they had given me an office. I was in the executive suite. I was
Wow.
doing things that needed to be done
Mm-hmm.
beyond the hours of 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to come in at 7 in the morning. I used to leave about 6. I used to log in from home to check my mail and to see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I went to conferences and things that I was working the job as if it were an exempt position,
You were an executive. You sound
and
like
I
it.
was
I
being
understand.
treated as if it was an exempt position.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing negotiating for the city in different areas. So, I just assumed it was an exempt position. They told me no, it wasn't exempt. So I said I didn't have a list. I hadn't kept track of what it was that I was doing
Mm-hmm.
when I was doing it. And they said, well, if you can't give us a list, then we can't pay you. So
Wow.
I said, okay, well, then I'll make up a list.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down and I came up with a likely list,
Mm-hmm.
and just to cover any possible times when I thought I might have been working not, I did it for just a year out of the year and a half. So I cut off, a third of the time.
Oh, so you didn't even use everything
I
that
didn't
you
use
had worked.
everything, and I
Okay.
only used the hours that I was at work or when I would, 15 minutes a day when I would check mail from home.
Wow. Okay. So you didn't even
Right.
anything extra.
So I didn't
Yeah,
count
yeah.
for any of the conferences or anything else. I just
Okay.
as a basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I submitted that list, and they told me they couldn't pay it because it hadn't been approved ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent them a copy of the federal law that says prior approval is not a reason to not pay overtime. If I worked it, I need to be paid it. And you have to understand that the Fair Labor Standards Act mandates that as an employee, you cannot make a deal to not be paid what you're owed.
Mm.
It's not only incumbent upon the employer to pay you when you work, but it's incumbent upon the employee to be paid.
Mm.
It's illegal.
On both sides.
It's illegal for me to make a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a position where I can't absolutely say every minute that I worked,
Mm-hmm.
nor can they, there's got to be negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
So I started out cutting at least a third, if not more, of the time out, and I gave them a bill for that. They took a very long time to respond, and I hired an attorney, and they responded to him that they recognized that they owe me money, but they wanted me to make an offer, and I said that was my offer. And so they responded with about 10 cents on the dollar on that, and I said no, and went back and forth for a while with no dollars being discussed. My saying to them that they needed to make an offer to me that was realistic, and finally they made an offer to me, and I accepted it.
Okay.
And as they were sitting to write the papers, in fact, the papers are going to be written. It was the weekend. I got a call from my attorney that said that the mayor had nixed the deal,
Wow.
that his attorney had negotiated with my attorney,
Mm.
which was for basically half of the 2/3 that I had asked for.
Mm.
And the amounts were $13,200 is what I asked for, which is time and a half
Mm-hmm.
for the hours that I worked, and I was willing to settle for $7,500.
Mm.
So at that point, and I understand this was on a Friday,
Okay.
before the Tuesday when I could start handing out my papers.
Mm-hmm.
But I had talked to many people before that about it, and about running for the mayor, and I hadn't talked to people before that about my claim for the money with people. I wasn't walking around telling people I'm suing the city.
Right.
And
right.
for the whole year, I did my job, and other than getting hit by a car and losing a month's work, you know, I came in every day, did my work, went home, worked my 40 hours, and my supervisor said he was more than happy with the work that I was doing. So it was interesting to get a call from Jared from the morning call, asking me about the overtime issue.
Even though you had never mentioned it.
Even though I had never mentioned it, and I have to believe somebody from the city violated my rights and confidentiality by leaking this to the city. But you know, I'm not, you know, ashamed of it. I have always stood up for my rights as well as other people's rights.
Right.
And you know, the city had the option of, you know, telling me my job was exempt, like I thought it was, and they chose not to. That wasn't my choice.
Right. Right.
And they admitted immediately that if I had worked overtime, they owed me money.
Right.
And they admitted after they tried to tell me they didn't owe it to me for illegal reasons, that they really did owe me money, and it was just a question of how much.
Right.
And we reached an agreement, and the mayor wouldn't let it go through.
Wow. Okay.
So that's where I went with it, and that's, you know, that's between me and the city,
Right.
and has nothing to do with my running for mayor. It would have been much easier for me to drop that and say, you know, but I don't let go of things that are right.
So you're not a disgruntled employee. In fact, you're still working for the city.
I'm still working for the city.
Okay,
I'm not being as productive as I could be because they've limited me. So from that perspective, I'm disgruntled. But
Okay, yeah.
I'm a workaholic.
Right. No, I understand. I mean, it seems like you take the initiative and
Yeah.
you just run with it.
Right.
Which is, to me, that you would think that would be the a celebrated employee right there, someone who does things like that.
You would think.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's not happening. So let's go forward to the